Hey, welcome to Brethren 34 Newcomer Orientation. My name is Randall. I'm a grateful recovering addict. I'm starting the workshop, y'all. Young ladies, I'm starting the workshop.
Do we want to say the prayer before?
Yeah, I was going to do that.
Cool.
She reminded me to let's say the surrender prayer. Let's have a moment of silence before we say, and repeat the surrender prayer. A moment of silence, please. Surrender prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot count, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. My name is Randall H.
Hey, Randall.
Grateful recovering addict.
Hey, Randall.
I'm so grateful and so pleased to be able to do anything to help anybody in Narcotics Anonymous do anything. And this is Naomi. Naomi was our CPP chair last year, right?
Last year.
Yeah. And she's been still coming back doing what she needed to do. You know, she came up here to do this Newcomer workshop. Now, what we do in the Newcomer orientation, workshop, or whatever you want to call it, is just let y'all know about our experience with conventions. I've been clean for the last 16, going on 17 years. I've done conventions for the last 15 years. You know, just Atlanta, the region, wherever we go, I've done conventions that long. And my first time in Narcotics Anonymous, I went to a convention I got clean in like April, and the convention I think was like July. So I didn't have that much clean time. But I went to a convention that was called Midtown Area Convention, called Magna. And all I saw was a lot of addicts having fun without getting high, without doing drugs, without doing nothing that I was used to doing. They was actually playing cards, they were doing workshops, they were doing things. And I just saw something that I had never seen before. And these people had 3 years clean. At that time, it was 1992, and they had 3 years clean, 5 years clean, and that was about the highest amount of clean time that anybody had. I think the mic is going out. But anyway, after my experience in that, I found out that what happened really with me, so I was kind of sick when I came in. But that was my first convention. And what happened with me was I had a camera, and they had a swimsuit contest. Now just imagine me with about 4 or 5 months clean, and they having a swimsuit contest, and I'm just sitting out there with my camera just looking because I didn't know what to do. They said, well, they asked me, you're not going to take any pictures? I said, I can take y'all pictures? So I got excited, and they started letting me take their pictures, and they started talking to me. And I was like, man, I like Narcotics Anonymous. So ever since that convention, I've been coming back, you know. And whatever brings you back, you know, just not using it is the best and most important thing for me, period. But whatever keeps you coming, let it keep you coming for the right reason. Not the right reason, just stay clean one day at a time. I mean, you know, that's what I've done. But convention, that was my first experience with a convention. And after that happened, I decided, you know, this took me about 6 or 7, 8 years to start doing conventions myself, you know, being on the convention, CPP, like the convention planning panel, or in our area called the activity committee. I started doing that and doing whatever I needed to do to help make it successful. And I've been involved with a lot of real great conventions. So what I do today is whenever I can, I help. You know, I'm a trustee. That means that I've been on the board with this committee, or with this convention. And now I'm a trustee, and I just do whatever they ask me to do. Whatever they need help with, I say, I'll help you. And that's what I do. And that's how these things keep going. We got people like me, like Naomi, like she's here right now. Did you have anything to do? You just came down here to do this Newcomer workshop. I'm going to let Naomi talk a little bit to you, and then I'll come back and say a little bit more. But I wanted her to give you some of her experience before I took over the whole thing. I love you.
You know, and how, oh God, I am not a mic person, but I've got to do this because of the taping. I'm Naomi, and I'm an addict, and I have, just in January, I celebrated 13 years clean, and the way I did it was pretty much what Randall said. I mean, I walked into my first meeting, didn't know anybody. My first meeting was almost a men's meeting, but luckily I couldn't find it. So I went to the next day, the same place, and they had a mixed meeting, and it was a lot more comfortable for me. And then I just kept coming back. I met a woman that I seemed to have something in common with. I wanted what she had to offer. And within about 2 months, I went to my first convention, and I was kind of shy back then, believe it or not, and I holed up in my room a lot until my sponsor took my key and locked me out of my hotel room and said, don't come back until you've met a couple of people and can tell me about them. So that was my first experience at a convention. Now you can't really shut me up, so good, bad, or indifferent, I'm here. I hope to stay, God willing. We do a lot of things at meetings that seem a little different. Of course, we do the readings. When someone asks you, are there any NA-related announcements? They need to be related to NA. Either a Narcotics Anonymous meeting that needs some support, somebody celebrating, an event that's happening that is strictly NA. If there's something like you want to go out to eat afterwards, or you want everybody to come over to your house, more power to you, but those need to go after the meeting. After we circle up and say goodnight, say our prayer, that's when you say, oh, and if anybody wants to know where we're going out for dinner, this is where we're going. Because that's considered to be an outside issue. When I first walked in, I didn't know those sorts of things. So I kind of sat and listened. There wasn't a newcomer orientation at the first convention I went to. In terms of the types of meetings we have, they're open versus closed. Open meetings, it doesn't, you don't have to self-identify as an addict. I can bring my son, I can bring my husband if I want, who don't identify as addicts. If family members or friends kind of want to get a sense of it, they're welcome at an open meeting. At a closed meeting, if you see that little C on a schedule, that really means that's only open to people who self-identify as addicts, who are coming to get experience and strength and hope for their own recovery. Because there are things you and I can understand. Somebody who's not an addict may not, and we may not want to share that with someone who's not an addict. We're not keeping secrets, we just really want to be able to identify with one another. So that's what a closed meeting provides. We've got meeting schedules in every area, and you can look at the different types of meetings that there are. Some are literature-based, some are book studies, but they'll usually have open or closed, and you can figure out who can come to it and who can't. How many people here already have a home group? Awesome. If you don't have a home group, it is a great way of getting to know others, letting others get to know you on a more intimate basis. It's a great introduction to service. The first place that I did service was setting up chairs for my home group, which was the Sunday morning spiritual meeting when I first came in. There's also a difference between your group, which are the people, and a group who carries the message to a still suffering addict, and the meeting itself. Your group are the people that are in your home group, the people you call, you let know about you. The meeting is actually where things take place. And then there's also the group conscience or business meeting. Usually happens once a month, right before your area service meeting. And in group conscience, that's where the business happens. Who's unlocking the door? Who's doing cleanup afterwards or setup? Do we need any medallions for celebrations? That sort of stuff. And at first, I don't know about y'all, but group conscience was like, why am I here? Now, I wouldn't miss my group conscience. It's important to me that I make sure I give back and I make sure my home group keeps going. Occasionally, I'll go to other home groups, and if I'm invited to attend their group conscience meeting because they need a little support, they might not have people that really support that meeting, and they need some guidance. I'll go there. I mean, I don't vote. I only vote once in one home group. But if a group needs some guidance and wants to know what we've done in our home group, I can at least pass that information around. How many of you consider yourselves NA members? I certainly do. And the third tradition states that the only requirement for membership is a desire to stop using. Membership is not automatic when someone walks in the door or when the newcomer decides to stop using. The decision to become a part of our fellowship rests solely with the individual. I can't say you're a member. Only you can say you're a member. And you can't say I'm a member. I'm the one who self-identifies as an addict. We do several readings. There's no prescribed way of doing them. We usually do what is the NA program, who is an addict, why are we here, how it works, the 12 traditions, just for today. And my favorite is the third paragraph of We Do Recover, but that's not read at every meeting. Each meeting can decide in their group conscience what readings they want to include, what parts of readings they want to include. And so if you go to a meeting, and let's say it's your home group, and you feel like, my gosh, these readings go on forever, remember what it felt like the first time you walked in. Because I know the first time I heard that alcohol was a drug, I was blown away. And I need to reevaluate some things. So the readings, for me, are really important. And I used to think, oh my gosh, this is going to take half the meeting to just read the readings. I don't think that anymore. I also know I forget really easily, and those reminders, I need them every day. So the readings serve as that. As defined by NA, total abstinence is something that we take seriously. I certainly take it seriously. In the last two paragraphs of how it works, it says that the only way to keep from returning to active addiction is not to take that first drug. If you are like us, you know that 1 is too many and 1,000 is never enough. We put great emphasis on this, for we know that when we use drugs in any form, or substitute one for another, we release our addiction all over again. Thinking of alcohol as different from other drugs has caused a great many addicts to relapse. When we came to NA, many of us viewed alcohol separately, but we cannot afford to be confused about this. Alcohol is a drug. We are people with the disease of addiction who must abstain from all drugs in order to recover. I mean, that, like I said, that was a shocker for me. But I needed that reminder, I needed to reevaluate, and I needed to commit myself to total abstinence. Again, the only person who can decide, am I clean, is me, just like the only person who can decide that I'm an addict is me. For me, it was really important to make those two commitments, and I make those two commitments every day. I'm an addict, and I'm committed to my recovery. In terms of a clarity statement, some groups have added this. There's mixed feelings about that. I'll say that to start out with. But at NA meetings, we do introduce ourselves as addicts. When our members identify themselves as addicts and alcoholics, or addicts and, or talk about living clean and sober, the clarity of the NA message can become blurred. To speak in this manner suggests that there are two diseases, that somehow one drug is separate from another drug and requiring special recognition. Our identification as addicts is an all-inclusive one, referring to the disease of addiction. And it allows us to concentrate on our similarities as a group instead of our differences. If I wanted to focus on our differences, I don't have to talk about which drug I did, what color I am, where I came from, how much money I have. I don't need to talk about all. I mean, there's so much I could talk about if I wanted to identify only with the differences. I'd rather talk about the fact that you know how I feel. I've been right where you are, and one day you'll be right where I am. You know, I can learn from you, and you can learn from me. Without the other addicts in this fellowship, there's no way I'd be where I am today. I mean, I have a life beyond my wildest dreams, and that's because of people who came before me and people who came after me who were willing to listen and give me some suggestions. At NA meetings, the chair of the meeting, and all of y'all have been to a meeting before, it sounds like, so, but they will usually ask, is there anybody who's going to their first meeting or who's ever been to this meeting? That's their first time here. They're not trying to embarrass you. Trust me, we've all been to our first meeting. We just want to identify you as a newcomer so we can reach out to you after the meeting and make sure you have what you need to stay clean. In terms of the basket going around, here at the convention, we don't necessarily do that, but at your home group, at other meetings you go to, there'll be a 7th tradition basket. The basket is to cover the costs of having meetings. There's a place to meet, books, readings. If you have coffee at your meeting, it covers the coffee sometimes, not always. And our 7th tradition states that every group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. Let's say a church comes along and says, oh, we'll fund your meeting. As an NA group, we have to say absolutely not. We pay for our rent there. No matter how little or how much it is, we must pay for the facility. And the way we are funded is by the $1 or these days $2 or $3 that you throw in the basket when you can. When I came around, it was about $1, maybe $2. When I have it, I try to throw more in now, just because thanks to NA, I can do that. I couldn't do that when I started out, that's for sure. In terms of how we share at NA meetings, we share generally our life experience in recovery. We deal with every aspect of our addiction. The obvious symptom of my addiction was my old uncontrollable drug use. I mean, obviously. But there are so many ways. The further I get from the drugs, and I thank God every day for my distance from the drugs, I'm only one action away from picking up again. But there are so many ways that my addiction can come alive in my life. I'm just making sure my son isn't here. Give me a cute man, I can attach to that and obsess on that. Give me good food, or not even good food, just food that feels good, comforting. I can attach to that. I can obsess and be compulsive about just about anything that starts off feeling good, and by the end I'm like, why am I doing this? But I'm still doing it. And we can talk about that in meetings, because the bottom line is, it's always about the drugs, because that's where I'll go back to if I make myself feel bad enough. So for me, I've got to watch how I act and how I think. And NA gives me that change in perspective that I need. Because I can go so quickly back to being that self-absorbed, self-seeking, self-centered addict. And there's no higher power in my life, and y'all don't matter. And as soon as my higher power doesn't matter and y'all don't matter, it's not a good thing. I'm in trouble. I'm trying to think of some other things. We try to come to meetings clean, but you won't be turned away if you don't. We try not to bring any paraphernalia. I personally, and this is me, I don't wear shirts and stuff like that remind me of doing drugs. Why? I don't want to trigger anybody. That's not what my purpose is. Now, there are a couple of things in an NA meeting that we do try not to do. We don't have a lot of rules. It's the only place I've not gotten kicked out of, and trust me, that's a good feeling. You don't want to crosstalk. If someone shares about something and then it's your turn to share, I don't want to say, and talk right to you about what you just shared. If I want to do that after the meeting, if I've thought it through and I think it's useful and it can be constructively used, I'll say, hey, I had that same experience and this is what I did. Talk to your sponsor and see if that'll work for you. Disruptive behavior. Cell phones are a real problem these days. I turn mine off. I put it on silent. Sometimes that works for me, but if it buzzes, I still get that addict mind going, that obsessive and compulsive. It's just easier for me to turn it off. Texting is the same way. Commenting on people sharing. It's real easy, especially in the beginning, to go, oh God, here they go again. I try real hard not to get that attitude. You know what? I've gotten a message from people I don't necessarily like very much, but they've said what I needed to hear. You know, and I've gotten a really good message from someone who was brand new, someone who was older. You just never know where recovery is going to come from. So for me, I try to give respect to everybody who's out there, and I hope the same is done for me. Am I always successful? No, but I do my best. Violence, it doesn't have any place in our rooms. You know, if we put somebody at risk, either verbally or physically, they might use. And all I know is I don't want to be responsible for someone going out. It's a cold, hard world out there. This needs to be a safe place. Finally, we need to be real careful of our relationship with the facilities that we have. Respect those facilities. Don't let your kids run around. Certainly don't bring your animals if they don't like animals there. Cigarette butts tend to be a real problem with us. You know, put them where they're supposed to go. If there's a lot of cigarette butts where you're supposed to put them, find a place to empty it. I'm not a smoker anymore, but I'll do that. I mean, I'll do whatever it takes for us to keep a good place to meet, because I like nice meeting places. I've had my time of hanging out in places that I wouldn't be caught dead in. I'd rather go to nice places now. And, you know, church classrooms, community rooms, things like that. I like being there, so I'll take care of it. In terms of how it works, NA is not a religious movement. We're not trying to find you jobs, although it's amazing through networking what you can find here. And we're not a social service agency. We don't know how, you know, some individuals may be able to help you find a place to live, but that's not what we're here for. There's no paid social workers, no paid folks in meetings. Anybody who's in a meeting is there out of the love of the fellowship. We don't run hospitals, recovery centers, none of that. If somebody's doing that, it's their own thing. NA is strictly Narcotics Anonymous. We are a fellowship of men and women that, I don't know about y'all, but I couldn't stop using. This is the only place I could. We use a couple of tools. One is the 12 Steps and 12 Traditions. The steps are some exercises that other addicts that came before me came up with that seem to get to the root of our issues and what led us to do drugs and how they lead us to find a different way of living. I spent a lot of time early on trying to figure out the steps. What I found is figuring them out, I don't have to understand them. I thought, oh, I'm so smart, I'll figure these out. I'll understand how they work. I gave up. They don't make sense to me, and they don't have to. What they do is they work in my life. Because I've worked my steps, I don't really know how it works, but my life is better. You know, when I got here, I couldn't stand my children. I couldn't be in the same room with them. I didn't care much for my husband. And 13 years later, I love my husband, I love my children. One son, some of you saw here, I mean, he's grown up in the room since he was 2 years old. This is his family. He couldn't wait for the convention. I mean, I'm being a bad mom right now because I checked him out of school and he's not going tomorrow so that he could be here. I know he'll learn more here about life than he would at school, and he'll make up the work because that's the kind of kid he is. He's not like I was at his age. Sponsorship is wonderful. How many of y'all have sponsors already? Awesome. I can raise my hand too. I've had the same sponsor for about 10 years now, and I'm still connected to the other two because I'm in the same sponsorship family. They just kept moving away. I kept driving them out of Atlanta. So one moved to Florida, one moved to Washington State. So now this one's got a lot. I made sure she had a lot of ties to Atlanta. She's not going anywhere. Sponsorship and the girls I sponsor, I can't even tell you what that gives to me. Someone that I can connect with. It's a give and take relationship. I learn from their mistakes. I don't have to make the same stupid mistakes. I can make other ones. And then service is a big deal to me. If you're asked to do something here at the convention, do it. You'll be surprised how much you get from it. And it may be something really small, greeting people at the door, asking people to show their badges, whatever. You'll see me. I'll talk to just about everyone at the convention, and the way I've gotten to do that and the way I've gotten to know people is by doing service. I could, just about any place on the East Coast that I go, I could call somebody and probably have a place to stay that night. And a meeting to go to because of the addicts in recovery that I've met through the service I've done. So I highly recommend service. Start out small. When you can do that little bit, get a little more. Still work on yourself. Don't be such a service junkie that you don't do your step work. Don't keep in touch with your sponsor. But do some service. Reach out. Giving back has been the best thing I've gotten out of recovery. And it's funny, if you give back in recovery, what you find is there's other organizations that your skills can be used by. Usually when I started out as, I think I told you, a trusted servant in my home group. And then I did some things at area. And then my sponsor sucked me into being program vice chair for this convention 6 years ago. And then I met people like Randall and Missy. And there's people, I can't wait to hug them. My skin got electric as I approached. As I was driving here tonight, I was so excited. And it's all because of people I've met through recovery and through service. I strongly recommend, in terms of how it works, we find a higher power. The higher power that I found through my 12 steps that I did, is probably different than Randall's higher power. I don't usually talk about who that is, or what my higher power is, except with my sponsor and my sponsees, or if another recovering addict asks me about it. I don't really bring it up in meetings, like who my higher power is and how my higher power is so much better than yours, because I don't believe that. I'm just happy to have one now, and it's not drugs. So if you don't have a higher power, look in your life for something that means a lot to you. For me, nature always gets me in touch with my higher power. Taking a walk in the woods, my garden, things that I didn't have a lot of time for when I was using. NA literature is really important to me, and we're so lucky to have so much of it. We've got the basic text. It Works How and Why, which is one of my favorites. Step working guide. And for me, I collect things a lot. Probably another one of my little compulsions. But through my various sponsors and people I've talked to, if you don't like the step working guide, there are worksheets that have been out there for years and years and years that can take you through the steps a different way. If you get through a step and you don't feel moved or changed in some way, tell your sponsor. They'll find a way, mine has, to make the steps come alive for you. There's Just for Today, which is our daily meditation book. That's a great one, because if we all do that every day, then when I see you in a meeting, guess what? This morning you just meditated on the same Just for Today meditation that I did. And we all have a common theme that we're kind of thinking about during the day. There's the little white book, and now there's a light blue book. I think it's got some printing on the front that the old white book didn't. There's all kinds of informational pamphlets. So if you can't afford the actual books. Talk to someone who's got some time. You never know what gifts will come your way. And then there's also informational pamphlets that are free. If you have access to a computer, there's stuff online at na.org. A couple of other tools I highly recommend, and some of you are beyond some of these, but I still go back to them. For me, when I'm struggling, I'll do a 90 and 90 again. And that's 90 meetings in 90 days. I'm meeting every single day. And by the end of those 90 days, trust me, you will know the people in the meetings you go to, and they'll know you. Support. I still have the piece of paper that was in my notebook. I was one of those who carried a notebook around. Somebody took my notebook from me at that first meeting and got every woman in there to write down their number. I'm still friends with a lot of those women, and I still have that list. Definitely get phone numbers. If you're a woman, get women's numbers. If you're a man, get men's numbers. And use it. I know that phone feels heavy. I don't care. Call 3 addicts a day and just say, hey, my sponsor said I needed to call you. Or tell them the truth. Hey, I was at this Newcomer workshop, and this woman who was up there told me I had to call 3 people, and I'm taking suggestions these days. And they might say, well, who was she? And there you've got a conversation going, and you didn't even try. And along those same lines, we have a scavenger hunt that we give to newcomers. And there is a prize, because we know how addicts are. But what it is, we want you to go through while you're at the convention. And you know how you see me already hugging everybody, talking to them, finding out their names, getting phone numbers? You're going to get really good at that, because on a scavenger hunt, we have different people you need to find, get their names and phone numbers, and you will get your sheet back. And what we want you to do is when you get home from this convention, you'll have a list of people that you could call. It's also a lot of fun for us, because we get to, people have been around a long time. I want to meet the newcomers. The fact that y'all are coming in means it hasn't gotten any better out there. And that'll keep me here, and hopefully it'll keep you here. So before you leave, make sure that you pick up this. You have until Saturday, I believe, at 5. You have until Saturday at 5 to turn this in. And then we'll announce at the meeting on Saturday night, we'll announce who the winner is. And there's even a mystery guest that you got to figure out who it is to get their signature and their phone number. So get this beforehand. If you have not registered and you are a newcomer, please see Randall or I so we can make sure we get you a registration packet before you leave this room. And other than that, I'm going to turn it over to Randall and let him close things out. But also, if y'all have questions, we'll be happy to.
Who are we supposed to turn those in?
There'll be at the registration desk. There'll be some folks that are trust me. There's a mad rush to turn these in by the 5 o'clock deadline. So
Where do you get them?
here tonight. But you're. Oh, okay. All right. Give me a second. Let me let him finish, and then I'll give them to you.
Great job. What y'all think? One of the great jobs. Naomi's first time doing that. She did a great job. You had a lot of information, Naomi. And y'all are fortunate. I mean, they say for the first time, y'all are more fortunate because we have so much more information. But what I wanted to ask y'all, are there any other questions? Nobody have any questions? You got a question? I heard you. You got a question? Oh, I thought you were having a question. Did you have a question? No. All right. Well, what she did was wrapped up a whole lot of stuff. And see how she is. She did that when she was over the CPP, the Convention Planning Panel. She was the chair over that. She stayed prepared. Naomi, I appreciate all that information. And all y'all got a lot of information. I would have never given y'all all that information. And I'm glad that I was here to hear that. So next time I do something like this, I can maybe give out a little bit more information. But what I want y'all to do is, just tell me a little bit, Do we have time for them to say a little something about themselves? Yeah. Want to tell me about yourselves? Newcomer, you're a newcomer? How long you been clean?
13 years.
13. No, you're not a newcomer. But good. What's your name though? Hey, how you doing, man? Yeah, what's your name? No. Her, young lady, right? How long you been clean?
90 days.
90 days. Congratulations. How about you?
Rodney.
Hey, Rodney.
2 years, 5 months.
That's great, man. 13 years, 2 years, 5 months, 90 days. Any day clean is a day one for an addict like me. How about you?
I'm Ashton, and I've been playing 10 days.
All right. How you feeling? You glad you're here? I'm glad you're here too. Keep coming.
My name is Jimmy. This is my 3rd time around, and right now I'm clean for 4.5 months.
All right. Keep coming, man. Stay.
It's Kenny. I'm an addict.
Okay.
20 months.
All right. Young lady, now it's your turn.
Terry, 15 years.
15 years. So y'all hanging in there tough. Come on, young lady.
February 4th, 95. Awesome.
I'm trying to figure out how many days you had. Yay! We were talking about clean time. Y'all newcomers? No. There was a newcomer workshop for the newcomer, but you can stay. You know, none of y'all newcomers. Well, I want to say thank y'all for coming, man, and enjoy yourself. The scavenger hunt she's talking about, I've seen a lot of newcomers keep coming back after doing that because they were so glad to meet so many people. They met so many people, and they got the numbers, they kept the numbers, they called the numbers. That's how this thing works. We each help each other. So with that being said, I'm through. You know, if there's nothing else y'all have to say, you come on up, man. Thank y'all for attending.
Thank you.
And enjoy yourself. Enjoy yourself and stay. Young man, stay. All of y'all. Thank y'all. And that's the newcomer workshop for today.